My friend, if you truly understood the reason you were born, you would never spend another day living only for a paycheck. You are not here merely to fill a desk, punch a clock, or answer to someone else's schedule. You are here to take the seed that God placed in your heart and plant it in the soil of the world so that it may grow into something that blesses others. Look at nature. The tree does not wait for another tree to give it permission to grow. The river does not ask for a job, it simply flows. The sun, or rather the illusion of it, does not submit a resume every morning to be allowed to rise. Creation simply creates. That is its nature. And you, as a human being, are the highest form of creation. You were designed to bring forth ideas, to turn them into realities, and to shape your environment instead of being shaped by it. When a person settles for just working, they often surrender their greatest treasure, imagination. The mind is like a muscle. When you use it only to carry out instructions, it grows weak in vision. But when you dare to create, to imagine something that has never existed before, your mind sharpens, your faith strengthens, and your spirit comes alive. Napoleon Hill once said, "Yea, what the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." But the tragedy is, most people never even conceive anything of their own. They live entirely on someone else's dream. They clock in and clock out, hoping for security, not realizing that true security is not in a job, but in your ability to create value in any environment. The men and women who change the world are those who refuse to limit themselves to the instructions of others. They start businesses, they write books, they build organizations, they innovate new technologies. They are not bound by titles, they are bound by vision. And vision is stronger than any paycheck. Understand this, when God gave you life, He gave you raw materials, talent, passion, curiosity, and creativity. These are meant to be shaped into something greater. You dishonor your gift when you bury it under the safe soil of employment, never letting it grow into a mighty tree. The employee mindset says, "What can I get today?" The creator mindset says, "What can I build that will serve for years to come?" One is short-term survival. The other is legacy. And here is the beautiful truth. You do not need to quit your job today to start creating. You can begin right now with what you have. An idea in a notebook, a skill you refine after work, a small side project that grows into something powerful. Every empire begins with a single act of creation. The day you realize you were born to create is the day you stop asking, "Who will hire me?" and start asking, "What will I make that changes lives?" That shift from seeking permission to taking responsibility is the birth of freedom. And once you taste that freedom, you will never want to go back. There is nothing wrong with having a job, but a job is a season, not a destiny. You can lose a job in a day. You can be replaced, outsourced, or downsized without warning. Companies come and go. Markets rise and fall. But your purpose, the reason you were put here, cannot be taken from you. It is eternal. Too many people wrap their entire identity in their position. I am a manager. I am a teacher. I am an engineer. But the truth is, those are only temporary roles. One day you will no longer hold that title. Then the question will be, who are you without it? Napoleon Hill taught that success begins with a definite major purpose. Not a job description, not a salary range, a purpose, a vision so strong that it becomes the compass by which you navigate your entire life. When your work is aligned with that purpose, it becomes more than employment. It becomes a mission. The danger of living for a job is that it makes you reactive instead of proactive. You wait for instructions, wait for opportunities, wait for promotions. The world is overflowing with workers, but starving for leaders. Factories have machines, offices have computers, and both can perform repetitive tasks faster than any human. But no machine can dream, no computer can inspire, and no algorithm can awaken the sleeping potential in another soul. That is the sacred work of a leader, and the reason why you must rise beyond the role of mere worker. A worker asks, "What should I do today?" A leader asks, "Where should we go tomorrow?" The worker follows the map. the leader draws it. And in the course of history, it is not the followers who shape the future. It is those who dare to step forward, face the unknown, and lead others through it. You may say, "But I am not ready to lead." My friend, no one begins ready. Leadership is not granted by a title. It is born in the moment you take responsibility for a vision greater than yourself. You lead when you see a problem and decide to solve it instead of waiting for orders. You lead when you inspire others by your example instead of commanding them by authority. You lead when you dare to be the voice of courage in a room full of fear. Napoleon Hill often spoke of the mastermind principle, the power of joining forces with others toward a definite aim. But even in such a group, someone must see the bigger picture. Someone must hold the compass steady when storms come. That someone can be you, not because you are perfect, but because you are willing. The tragedy is that most people never step into leadership because they are too busy doing as they are told. The safe path is to stay in the crowd. The harder path is to stand apart and say, "Follow me," but it is also the path where legacies are built. A worker fills a role. A leader shapes a destiny. A worker waits for opportunities. A leader creates them. And if you think the world will automatically produce leaders, think aga. The majority are content to be led, even into mediocrity. That is why you, yes, you, must rise. Not because you seek power, but because you seek purpose. When you lead, you become a beacon. Others wandering in uncertainty see your light and find direction. That is why the world needs leaders far more than it needs workers. Machines can replace workers. Nothing can replace a leader with vision, courage, and heart. From the moment we are young, we are told, "Get a good job so you can have security." And so we go to school, collect degrees, and take positions that promise stability. We cling to paychecks, benefits, and retirement plans as if they are unshakable walls around us. But the truth most never want to face, is that this so-called security is an illusion. Ask the man who gave 20 years to a company only to be replaced by a younger hire. Ask the woman who thought her industry would never collapse until technology made her role obsolete. Ask the millions who have been laid off during economic downturns, mergers, or sudden crises. One moment they had security, the next they had none. Security, my friend, is not found in external structures. It is found in internal capability. It is the unshakable confidence that you can create value anywhere, anytime with the gifts you have been given. That is real security. And it comes only when you stop depending entirely on others for your livelihood. Freedom is the true goal. Not the freedom to do nothing, but the freedom to do meaningful work on your own terms. The freedom to choose where, when, and how you contribute to the world. The freedom to spend more time with those you love, to pursue causes you believe in, to live without the fear of being replaced. Napoleon Hill wrote that self-reliance is a cornerstone of success. This does not mean isolation. It means that your ability to provide, create, and succeed is rooted in your own skills, vision, and resourcefulness, not in the promises of a corporation. When you pursue freedom, you stop building your life on shifting sands. In every workplace, there are two types of people: those who wait for instructions and those who find solutions. The first type merely survives, the second type thrives. When you only follow orders, you become replaceable. Anyone can be trained to complete a list of tasks. But when you develop the ability to solve problems, to think critically, to anticipate challenges, to turn obstacles into opportunities, you become invaluable. Napoleon Hill taught that opportunity often comes disguised as temporary defeat or misfortune. Why? Because the average person runs from problems. They see a challenge and say, "This is someone else's responsibility." But the leaders, the visionaries, the builders, they lean in. They ask, "How can this be fixed? How can this be improved? How can I turn this mess into something remarkable?" The most successful people in history weren't merely order takers. They were problem solvers. Thomas Edison didn't wait for someone to tell him to invent the light bulb. Henry Ford didn't wait for someone to request the assembly line. They saw a need and filled it. When you focus only on following orders, you live within limits, the limits of someone else's vision, someone else's instructions. But when you focus on solving problems, you step into a world without boundaries where you can innovate, create, and lead. Every great business is built on the foundation of solving a problem. Uber solved the problem of inconvenient transportation. Airbnb solved the problem of expensive, limited hotel space. Even the smallest entrepreneurial venture, from a food stand to a freelance service, exists because someone decided to stop waiting for directions and start providing solutions. The irony is that people fear problems, yet problems are the very birthplace of opportunity. Each challenge you face carries within it the seed of growth, wealth, and influence. So if you're willing to take ownership of it. So don't just follow the script someone else wrote for you. Write your own. Be the person who says, I'll handle this. I'll figure it out. I'll make it work. The moment you become a problem solver, you step out of the crowd and into the realm of leadership. Every day, millions of people wake up and trade the most precious resource they will ever own, their time, for a fixed amount of money. They rent their hours, their skills, their creativity, and in many cases their dreams, for a paycheck that often undervalues what they truly have to offer. But here is the truth. Your value cannot be measured by an hourly wage. It cannot be contained in a salary figure. Your value is infinite because your mind, your imagination, and your ability to create have no ceiling. Napoleon Hill reminded us that one sound idea is all you need to achieve success. That single idea could produce more income than years of employment. Yet most people never take the time to discover their ideas because they are too busy renting their value cheaply to someone else. When you work only for money, you think in terms of limits. This is my salary, this is what I earn per hour. But when you work for value, you think in terms of potential. How much impact can I make? How can I multiply my results? Consider this. If you can generate $1,000 of value in a day for a company, why not learn how to generate that same value for yourself? If you can help someone else build $1 million business, why not use that same skill to build your own? I am not saying you should never work for others. A job can be a stepping stone, a training ground, a place to gain skills and discipline. But it should never be the final destination. Because when you rent your value indefinitely, you limit yourself to what someone else believes you are worth, the marketplace. He will always try to get the most from you for the least possible cost. That's business. Faith is the builder of empires, the spark of invention, the invisible force behind every great achievement in history. Yet most people use it only for survival, hoping for a steady job, a promotion, or a small raise. They build their resumes instead of building their dreams. Napoleon Hill taught that faith is the head chemist of the mind. It takes the raw materials of thought, desire, and imagination and blends them into reality. Without faith, you will not even attempt the extraordinary. Without faith, you will cling to the ordinary. Think of it. Every great achievement began in the unseen. The Wright brothers had no proof they could fly, only faith in their vision. Thomas Edison had no guarantee he could create the light bulb, only faith that it could be done. Faith is what moves a person from it's impossible to it's inevitable. A resume says, here is what I have done for others. Faith says, here is what I will create for myself and the world. The tragedy is that millions spend decades polishing a resume, a document that helps them fit into someone else's vision, while neglecting to write the blueprint for their own. Faith does not ask for credentials. It asks for commitment. It demands that you believe in your dream when no one else does. And here is the secret. The world only believes in you after you have already believed in yourself. You must stop using all your energy to prove you are qualified for someone else's plan and start using it to prove to yourself that your own plan can work. Your resume will not set you free. Your faith will. Your resume may open doors, but your faith will build the house. Faith is not blind hope. It is active expectation backed by action. When you have faith in your dream, you study, prepare, and work with relentless focus. You stop asking for opportunities and start creating them. If you choose between building, resume and building a dream, remember this: resumes expire. Dreams, when built on faith, live forever. There is a vast difference between earning a living and building a legacy. A living ends when the paycheck stops. A legacy continues long after you are gone, and the bridge between the two is ownership. Napoleon Hill wrote extensively about the principle of organized effort. When you own something, a business, an idea, a property, a creation, you organize resources, people, and systems around it. You become the architect, not just a bricklayer. When you are an employee, your contribution is temporary. The moment you stop working, the benefit to you stops as well. But when you own something, your efforts compound. Your business, your intellectual property, your investments, they can continue producing value for years, even decades. Look at the wealthiest individuals in history. They did not build their fortunes solely by working harder. They built them by owning assets. Assets that generate income, solve problems, and serve people even while they sleep. Ownership also brings pride and purpose. When it's yours, you care more. You invest your best energy, your best thinking, your best creativity, and in return, you receive not just income, but influence. You shape your industry, your community, and the future of your family. A legacy is not about money alone. It's about impact. A teacher who starts her own educational platform creates a legacy that can reach thousands. An artist who sells their own work instead of giving it to a gallery for a fraction of its worth is building ownership. A craftsman who turns his skill into a brand is creating something his children can inherit. When you own, you pass something forward. When you only work, you pass nothing. The truth is, you can start small. Ownership can begin as a side business, a book you publish, a produce you invent, a piece of land you buy, or a digital creation that sells worldwide. The important thing is that you begin